How's it going, everybody? My name is Philip, and today we are back with another AFL reaction. This is the Dark Ages Port Adelaide. Now, this is AFL Access. I'm definitely interested. I'm always interested in learning about my team. As you can see, I'm a Port Adelaide supporter, and it sucks that we didn't get to win the premiership this year, but good job on the Demons, who broke a major 50-year premiership drought, I guess is what it was. Congrats to them. Even though I was kind of rooting for the Bulldogs just because they, beat us out, and I'd much rather have lost to the champions, the premiers, rather than the second place team. But it is what it is. And so I'm interested in what the Dark Ages mean. Like, I don't know if it's going to be brutal. I don't know if it's going to be the most, our worst time. I'm always down to learn more about the team. I feel like if you're not really interested in learning about your team, then you're not 100% invested in your team. And so I want to learn more about the team so I could get more and more invested in the team. And it's always fun to learn about your teams, I think. And so I'm interested in what the Dark Ages entails, honestly. So let's get into this video.
Hello and welcome to AFL Access.
Hello.
I'm Joel, and today I'll be looking at the dark times for particular clubs and how they manage to bounce back from these uncertain times. What I mean by this, whether it be financially, on...
Hold up. It says Joel Adelaide Crows. Is this going to be a little bit biased?
The field, off the field, the combination of this leading to poor on-field performances and dire situations business-wise. First up will be the Crows' crosstown rivals, Port Adelaide.
Tell me what went wrong. Because obviously it's been fixed, I'm guessing. Just 2 years ago.
The initial concept for this hopefully ongoing series came from my evolution of the halfback video, where I kind of offhandedly mentioned something about the dark time for the Crows. 2012, which was his second season in the AFL, and when I really started watching football again after a bit of a hiatus, the dark times of the Crows. Thinking about it further, I realized the Crows never really had a dark times. We were just painfully mediocre on the field. And especially compared to some other teams that had some notoriously bad periods in their history. Some clubs even having struggles from around the time I was talking about. With that in mind, I'm not going to dump on Port Adelaide and the other teams in these series. Instead, look at how they reached this period and how they managed to make their way out of the dark times and return to prominence in the AFL. After a strong 2007 season, finishing second by the end of the home and away season, the Power reached the grand final, going up against the Geelong Cats in what some people might have thought would be an enthralling contest. Yeah, it didn't shape up that way, unfortunately. It was definitely a really big blow to a promising season, but to be fair, that Geelong team was absolutely loaded and probably one of their best teams in the modern era, which is saying a lot. Going into the off-season, Port lost 2 experienced campaigners with Josh Mahoney and, more importantly, Darryl Wakelin retiring. But for the most part, they still had the team in place that got them to the grand final the previous year. Inexplicably, they started 0-4, and really it just didn't get much better for them as they finished the year 7-15 and missing out on the finals.
Ouch.
This could be put down to some of their more experienced players missing game time throughout the season and some younger blokes you've probably never heard of, like Robbie Gray and Travis Boak, stepping into the spotlight. That being said, Daniel Motlop...
I'm still learning people. The only person I know of is Ollie Wines. So... I don't know, and that's only because he won the Brownlow medal. That's the only thing I know.
Up and Brett Ebert looked like excellent forward options, kicking 57 and 33 goals respectively. The Corns brothers also played pretty well that season, as they had the year before, but alas, it really just didn't stop the slump. 2009 was pretty much more of the same, with a 9-13 campaign, dropping their last 4 games of the season. Although, on the plus side, Warren Tredrea returned to form, kicking 51 goals, which was a promising sign heading into the 2010 season, alongside third-year players like Justin Westhoff and Robbie Gray, who during the 2009 season played the most games up until that point in their career, with 20 games. Port looked to be on the rise again. However, 2 huge losses with both Peter Burgoyne and Brendan Lade retiring, alongside Toby Thurston's, put a lot of pressure on the younger blokes to perform. Also, they traded Sean Burgoyne to the Hawks in a deal involving both Geelong and the Bombers to realise. Yeah, that's not a smart move. The 2010 season started out promising with a 2-0 start to the season, with a win over the West Coast Eagles in Subiaco, which is no easy feat. Looked like they were about to get back on track. Unfortunately, it did not last. By round 16, Port were 5-10, and head coach and leader of the team, Mark Williams, decided to resign after a 21-point loss to the Pies at Footy Park.
Damn.
It was quite a sad way to end the tenure of a coach that got Port to the mountaintop and made them an absolute force in the early 2000s. But unfortunately, he felt his time was up. Taking the place of Williams...
I do have to say that I think that's a bit fair, especially when you've had a decent start, and then all of a sudden, these last couple of years, you've been, like, not doing too well. A lot of the times, it's time for a good coaching change. Shake things up a little bit, whether it's new players, whether it's new coach. Half the times, it's always going to be a new coach. That's how it happens a lot in soccer. You want to shake things up, just get rid of the coach. Because it's always the coach's fault, you know?
Was the former Port Premiership captain Matthew Primus as head coach for the remainder of the season. And even though they lost the first match under Primus, they went on to win 5 out of the last 6, with a much more respectable 10-12 finish to the year. Suffice to say, the change in regime did bring a bit of an upswing in the Power's favour, so management decided to keep Primus on for the 2011 season and the next couple afterwards. Strong end to the 2010 season and a promising group of youngsters, 2011 looked to be the year that Port would surge back to the finals. That being said, it wouldn't be easy with club legends Warren Tredrea and Josh Carr retiring at the end of the season, leaving the team with little veteran experience which the youngest can look towards. So with that in mind, to say that the 2011 season was a complete disaster for the Power would be an understatement, as they went a horrific 3-19, only missing out on the spoon by the barest margin of percentage.
What is the spoon? What's? I'm guessing that's the wooden spoon. I'm still not sure what the wooden spoon is. I've heard of it, I just don't know what that is.
So, what contributed to this massive fall from the grace? Well, it could be a variety of different reasons, whether it be the coaching, injuries to key players, the baptism of fire for many of the young first, second and third years players, or, and I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and say, their really tough draw. Like seriously, playing Collingwood, who went 21-1, and Hawthorn twice.
Jeez.
These teams were absolute juggernauts, and putting them up against a young, developing Port side.
Okay, so is the scheduling, like, not even? Like, you don't play every team once? Because I know, at least, again, because I only know of American sports for the most part. Here in the U.S., you always play your Western, so like there's, in MLS, there's a Western and Eastern Conference. So you play the Western Conference like twice, 2 or 3 times, and you play the Eastern Conference once. So here, I from what I've seen, it's all one table. But do you not play every team once at least, and then like a couple teams twice? I don't know. Like, how does the scheduling work?
Would really struggle against them. Even with a lot of the stars that you play for Port today getting pretty regular game time, it really doesn't help when most of the usual support is underperforming and missing a lot of games. Even the captain, Dominic Cassisi, missed 9 games throughout the season, which could probably have helped guide some of the younger blokes through the tougher parts of the season. Some of the major lowlights of the 2011 season was being the first team to lose to the Gold Coast Suns after Justin Westhoff missed a shot after the siren that would have won them the game, and back-to-back losses with a total margin of 356 points against Collingwood and Hawthorn. Again, who thought that was a good idea to have Port play these 2 teams, especially with them deep in the rebuild? Anywho, the off-season for the Power...
Well, half the time when people make schedules, they don't give a crap. They just make the schedules, and it's like, hey, they'll deal with it. You know, they don't really get it. Oh, they're rebuilding. Oh, okay. So let's change it up. Let's give them this team over here.
It didn't get much better, as whatever top pick they were going to get was going to be undermined by GWS entering the competition next year and getting a majority of the first round picks. Players like Chad Corns, Dean Brogan and Michael Pettigrew all decided to retire at the end of the season, so more experience for the Power was lost. Although it would allow a lot more opportunities for the newly arriving players to take their mantle. Yes, I know Brogan and Corns went to the Giants after they retired, so don't at me. Anyway, with GWS getting the first 5 picks of the draft that year, with pick 6, Port Adelaide selected Chad Wingard from Sturt. Wingard was absolutely adamant that he was going to stay in South Australia, that he declared that he would request a trade back to South Australia once his 2 years spent with the club that drafted him had elapsed. Fortunately for him, Port drafted him first and set off into the preseason. Now, behind the scenes, Port had racked up about $5.1 million in debt, and a majority of it needed to be underwritten by the AFL, and that caused issues when they would not be able to pay off the AFL. Look, it's pretty hard for me to explain the details, but the point of this is they were millions in the hole, and it was not looking great on the financial front. If you want to know more, I would suggest looking it up on Wikipedia. But yeah, really bad performance on the field and issues for the club off the field made the Powers' future look pretty bleak at this moment. 2012 wasn't much better for the club, as they went 5-16-1, with Matthew Primer stepping down as coach after a loss to the GWS Giants. Funnily enough, with this record, they still outperformed some teams like GWS, Melbourne, and I think St Kilda at the time. But yeah, point is, even then they didn't really get a high draft pick from it. To compound another terrible season for the club, young star John McCarthy died during a postseason trip to Las Vegas. It honestly was one of the most
Why are you going to Vegas? What the hell's wrong with you? Don't be going to Vegas. Also, here in hockey, up here, we don't like Vegas. It's just how it's going to be. I don't know if we're going to like Seattle or not, but we'll see.
Tragic losses in all of football, as a young promising player had his life cut short during a time of relaxation, recuperation, heading into another season. Honestly, it's probably one of the worst things to happen to the Power. I mean, just off the field. Still, work needed to be done as in these difficult times.
Yeah, I will say losing a teammate definitely will affect you, I'm sure. I was in high school, which is insane to say that in high school. It didn't happen to me, but there was a team in our division that actually had a kid die. I don't remember what it was. I don't know if it was a heart problem or what, but he collapsed during the game. It wasn't my game either, but he collapsed during the game, and we remember hearing that he was cracking jokes and he was just being normal. Everything was fine. He was just, I guess, feeling a little bit weaker, I guess, in a sense. And I guess everything seemed fine and whatnot, but then he passed on his way to the hospital or something like that. And it was just so insane. It was so shocking because we were like, what, 14, 15? Maybe 16? And it's just like, what the hell? And I don't even know if that team played any more games or what happened. I just remember that, we went to the funeral. We had things made for the family. There were certain little things that we did. And it was just insane. And to think that losing a teammate, it would just really affect you and really get to you.
Fortunately, out of this tragedy, massive changes were on the horizon for Port Adelaide that would shift the fortunes of the clubs for year to come. On the 2nd of October, David Koch was announced as the new chairman of the football club and introduced a number of changes in the boardroom to get the right people running the show. A week later, they hired Ken Hinckley, a former assistant with the Cats and the Suns, as their head coach. With their first pick of the draft, Port Adelaide selected Ollie Wines, who has now gone on to be a key player in the Power's success. Fitness coach Darren Burgess returned to the club in 2013 as the head of high performance after a stint with Liverpool in the EPL. By the end of 2012, the future looked much, much brighter for the Power, after some very, very uncertain times. But now they would need to piece it together on the field. 2013 was a major improvement over the previous 2 seasons, with the Power gaining a 12-10 season to book their first final spot since the grand final in 2007.
Oh, wow.
With their young side, they stunned the Magpies, beating them by 16 points in the first elimination finals, but unfortunately fell short to the Cats.
Damn you.
Their performances were night and day, with the youth being a massive contributors to the upswing in the Power's success. Chad Wingard in his second season contributed 43 goals and pretty much single-handedly won a showdown for the Power, getting them over the line against the Crows. Ollie Wines also played a significant role in his debut season, averaging 18.79 disposals across all 24 games he played.
Nice.
So the 2014 season looked like an even more interesting prospect. The 2014 season for the Power was even better than the year before, as they went 14-8, but just missed out on the top 4. The high-powered, pun the pun, offense was in full bloom, with 3 players scoring 40-plus goals, with Jay Schultz scoring 66 throughout the season. They also had another 4 players who scored 20 or more goals throughout the season. So, suffice to say, the Power's run-and-gun brand of football was paying dividends. Entering the final series, they easily swept aside a hapless Richmond, scoring 8-1 in the first quarter, booking a date for them against the Dockers in Perth. So the next week, they headed over to Perth for a semi-final showdown with the Dockers, which seemed like an improbable challenge for the Power. However, the Power overran the Dockers and ended up winning by 22 points and booking a date with the reigning premiers Hawthorn in a preliminary final. Unfortunately, this is where the run ended, falling cripplingly short by only 3 points, similar to the fate that their crosstown rivals had experienced 2 years early.
It's always rough.
5 points, never forget. Now, to wrap this up, even though in the past couple of years they haven't been as consistently successful, the Power have been in way better shape financially and on the football field, and that is what's best for business. Some detractors, myself included, have said that Ken Hinckley may be on the hot seat after some failures in recent years, but there is no denying that his influence on the club, alongside David Koch, has stabilised them and set them up for success.
I will say, it's always difficult to fire a head coach when you've been consistent with making the playoffs. And, you know, it's always same with the Sharks. When we had Todd McClellan, we had such a good long run with playoff appearances, and that's why we kept him. And then, you know, you miss the playoffs once. It's like, oh, what did the coach not do properly, blah, blah, blah. And then you get rid of the coach. But it's one of those things where it's just, you don't know, you just don't know, you know? Like, if a new coach is going to affect it so much that you guys aren't going to make it to the playoffs and make it to the premiership, you know, the preliminary finals, make it to the grand final or anything, it's always just, you don't know, so you just stay with the safe option. Well, I mean, you know, he hasn't quite got us to there yet, but we have the players, we have this and that, everything's in place, we can make it there, you know?
The future. With the amount of youth and depth that is on the Powers list, there is no doubt in my mind that they'll be contenders for years to come.
Which is great.
So with that being said, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to have a shower now, because I feel gross empathizing with the Power.
And I feel weird. I feel weird listening to a Crows fan. No, but like, that's definitely really interesting. I'm glad we're out of the dark times, the dark era. I'm glad about that. And like I'm looking at some of these side recommended videos, I guess, on the side. And I like how they literally just give me a bunch of, like, Inside the Story of Port Adelaide 2015 Extended. It's an hour long. Like, I like that they're giving me some extra stuff to watch. Which also doesn't help because I have a lot of stuff to watch, actually, now that I think about it. But thank you so much for watching. It was definitely interesting, and I am excited. Hopefully we will be good for a long time. And now that I'm supporting, we can finally win another premiership. Right? Right? We can win another one. Right? I just need to figure out when the new season starts. I think it starts what was it? March-ish? So it's like, so it would be what? Spring-ish? Like winter, spring for everyone in Australia. So, yeah. I need to finally watch my full first season. Now that I'm officially into this sport. And I just need to remember that when this sport comes around in March-ish, February, March, to watch. Because they just had the preliminary, the grand final literally last week, a couple weeks ago now. So it'll be from about March to September. So that's a winter thing. Oh yeah, no, because summer is, so it'll be fall to winter. I'm still thinking of North America. Anyways, I just need to know when they start, because I've been trying to see when Super Rugby starts. Aotearoa. How do you say that? Aotearoa. Super Rugby Aotearoa. Because I want to watch the Blues. I've decided that's going to be my team for rugby. You know? But thanks for watching. If there's anything else, any other Port Adelaide stuff you'd like me to react to, let me know in the comment section below. Highlights, I will give those a watch as well. I normally would do about like 2 highlight videos in one video, just so I can have them both in one spot and not have them in separate videos. But let me know in the comment section below. Subscribe for more content, and leave a like rating if you enjoyed this video, and let me know, like I said, what else I should react to next, and I will see you guys later.